everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Sari and you are watching my knitting podcast videos, and it's time for another tutorial. So this time we are making the Kuutar top that I'm showing here, and I published this pattern last summer and it became an instant favorite both for me and for you guys. So there have been so many people who have been making it already, and it's based on my another popular pattern, the Kuutar pullover from a couple of years ago. So this is kind of like the summer version of that pullover. So the Kuutar family already has like a Kuutar pullover, cardigan, t-shirt, a beret, socks, and this top. So this has quite a lot of technique involved in the pattern. It's not that hard, but there's quite a lot of things happening. So that's why I decided to make this tutorial for you to have a more easier access to the pattern and the techniques. So it's not that hard. None of my patterns are actually very hard. They look very complicated, but when you start making them, I take care of writing my patterns in that manner that everything is explained very well. So you should be able to do it, but this is like a companion video for making it. So for especially people who are more visual, I'm more visual, so I need photos or videos rather than words. So I think tutorial videos are good for visual learners. So this is the Kuutar top. I can show it to you. And let me just walk you through the construction first. So we start at the top of the lace panel. So we started with a provisional cast on, and I will be showing you two different methods of making a provisional cast on. And then we start working the lace. So for this lace pattern you have to work it both on the right and the wrong side, so it's a bit more complicated than working a yoked pullover. So I will show you how to do it, how to read the chart, and you have to do some of the lace also on the wrong side, but only on a few rows, so not on every row. Then at the same time we make the I-cord edges for the sides of the body, and when you reach the armhole you put the stitches on hold and make the back in the same way. So the front and the back are identical, so you make two similar pieces, and then they are joined together at underarm. I used the I-cord cast on technique for the underarm, so it looks like the I-cord that is on the edges will continue all the way down to the armhole, and then with Kitchener stitch they are joined, so it looks like it's continuous all the way round. After that the body is worked in a round, so it's just in stockinette stitch, and to get a slight A-line shape there are a couple of increases along the sides, and the hem is folded double, so there is a purled folding round over here, you can see this one, and then there's a bit of stockinette on the other side, and it's stitched, sewed into the back of the work, so it's invisible and it looks really neat and minimalistic. And lastly we undo the I-cord edge from the neckline and put the stitches back on our needles. Use I-cord bind off technique, which I will also show you in these videos, to bind off all the stitches along the neck, and then we continue with the I-cord to make the straps. So that's the construction, and it looks like this. And next I will show you a couple of different yarn alternatives. I'm going to show you what yarn I'm going to use for my second Kuutar top that I'm making on this video, and also what needles, other notions you're going to need for making your own Kuutar top. I will link the Kuutar top pattern below this video, so you can go and buy it from there. And Then let's discuss about choosing the right size and what materials you will be needing. So, how to pick the right size for your top? I usually mark my sizes with numbers from 1 to 9. So 1 is the smallest size and 9 is the largest. And people often ask me which one is, for example, S, what is M, what is XL. I don't like to put size labels in that sense on my patterns, because there really isn't any standard what is an M-sized sweater, for example. So I rather give the bust circumferences, and the numbers that you see in the pattern, the bust circumferences, are the ones from the finished sweater, so this time finished top. So it's the actual bust circumference of this top. And I recommend you measure your own bust and pick a size that is closest to that bust measurement. So this one is intended to be worn with 0 ease, and that means that it should be snug around your bust, so not loose. So if you're between sizes, I would rather go for a smaller size rather than the larger size. Of course, if you want a slightly looser top, then pick the larger size, but I would rather pick slightly smaller, because the lace will stretch a bit. So choose the size that gets you the closest to your own bust measurement. So that is how you pick the size, and you can always change the length of the yoke, so you can add extra rounds over here, also extra rounds for the body. If you don't want to make the increases, the A-line increases for the sides, then you can leave them out, make them straight. Or if your bust is larger than your waist, then you can take out the increases and make some decreases instead, so you get a slightly decreasing shape for your top. So those are the alternatives. You can always modify all the measurements, all the strap lengths and so on for your own body measurements, so you get the perfect fit for you. So that's the Kuutar top and how you pick your correct size. I'll put it over there. The yarn that I used is from Kokon, and it's their light fingering yarn. So this is the actual yarn that I used, the actual color. And this is 90% merino, 10% linen blend, and it has 360 meters or 393 yards per 100 grams. So it's a sport, maybe a bit closer to it's a fingering, but maybe a bit closer to sport weight yarn. So I would say on the heavier side of fingering. So this is the actual yarn. The colorway that I used was stone. So this is the actual colorway, and I have another colorway here. It's a really beautiful brownish colorway. It's called Cork. I'm going to be using a slightly unexpected color. If you have been following me, you know my color palette, but for some reason this summer I'm really into bright colors. So I'm going to be using merino singles from Bien Aimee, and this is the tennis ball colorway. So very bright fluorescent greenish yellow, neon green, neon yellow colorway. But if you don't want to go that crazy, you can pick a more muted colorway from them. I also have another very bright colorway over here. This is the As If colorway, and I'm going to use this for my Rococo top, so you're going to be seeing this on me as well. A good alternative would be, for example, Aara yarns Koko. So this one. And this is the Beige colorway. It's 50% silk and 50% merino, and it has 400 meters per 100 grams, so a very basic fingering weight yarn. I used that yarn for my cocoa tea a couple of years ago. It's a really nice summer yarn. Another alternative would be to use Tynn linen from Sandnes Garn, and this is 53% cotton, 33% viscose and 14% linen. It has 220 meters for 50 grams. And then of course my all-time favorites, yarns from Knitting for Olive. These are slightly on the lighter side of fingering weight, so these have 250 meters per 50 grams, so that would mean 500 meters per 100 grams, so it's slightly lighter. If you want to use them, make your swatch carefully. So this is the Merino yarn from Knitting for Olive. I've used this a lot in the Hokkaido orange colorway, or their cotton merino. So this is 70% cotton, 30% merino yarn, and this is the dark ochre colorway. So swatch carefully when you are changing yarns, and even if you're using the same yarns that I do, because everybody has a slightly different knitting kind of like handwriting, but knitting style. So even though you give the same yarn and same needles to different people, the end result will be a bit different for every person. It's the same way if you say to people that here's 100 meters, walk 100 meters and count your steps, so everybody gets a slightly different amount of steps for that 100 meters. So that's the same thing. Everybody has a slightly different knitting style, so even with the same yarn and same needles, people get slightly different stitch counts. So swatch carefully before starting. One more alternative is from mYak. Their Baby Yak Silk, so 50% Baby Yak and 50% silk. This is also fingering weight yarn. It has 160 meters or 127 yards, but it's only a 25 gram skein. So this is the Tara colorway. And I recommend for this design that you use unicolor or slightly tonal colorways, because the lace, if you have a very busy yarn, for example something that has a lot of speckles or a lot of stripes or something like that, they will distract from this lace pattern. So the yarn itself has so much going on that the lace pattern won't show as well. So that's why I always recommend for cable and lace patterns that you choose something that is only slightly tonal or unicolor. So keep that in mind. I have one very lightly speckled yarn here that I wanted to show you that I think could work. So this is from Hedgehog Fibres, and this is their skinny singles. So it's 366 meters for 100 grams. So very similar in the meters for with the Kokon yarn. This is a 100% merino yarn, and it has some speckles, as you can see, very lightly. So I think this could work, but I would still make a swatch before starting my main project to actually see how the speckles look like in the finished project. Other things that you will need are of course needles. I'm going to be using circular needles, but for the lace part you can also use double pointed needles, or those longer needles, and then for the body change into longer. So you can use, for example, this is a 60 centimeter or a 24-inch cable. So this is good for the top lace. You could also, for the smaller sizes, you could use a 40 centimeter or 16-inch cable. And then for the body I will change into an 80 centimeter or 32-inch cable, or for the larger sizes I would take a 100 centimeter or 40-inch cable. And other things, you need some stitch markers. So I usually use these like coilless safety pins. You need a couple of those, and waste yarn, and if you have the cable cords, these are really good for putting stitches on hold. So these are like this little plastic tube that has a hole at the end. So those are really good. And then you need a tapestry needle, scissors, and so on. So that's everything you need, and then we are ready to start rolling our yarn and yeah, start knitting. So the first method for provisional cast on is to use a crochet hook. So I start by making a slip knot on the hook and then just start making chain stitches. So check your written pattern for the number of stitches you need to cast on for your size. So every size has a slightly different number of stitches to cast on, and I usually make a couple of extra stitches for the provisional cast on. So I'm not going to make the whole part here, I'll just show you a little bit. Then you can cut the yarn. So just make a few extra stitches on top of the number of stitches that you're going to cast on, and then we're going to take the main yarn that we are using and start picking up stitches from the chain stitches that we just crocheted. Just leave a little bit of tail, and what we are doing, just go into a chain stitch and then pick up and knit stitches from the chain, crocheted chains. And this is how we do it. And at the end you can remove or at the point where it says to undo the provisional cast on, then just undo the crochet edge. So I like to use the Knitty provisional cast on method, and for that you need a piece of waste yarn, so slightly longer than the part that you're going to cast on. So have a little piece of that, and then I'm going to start using my needles. So start with your smaller needles, the needle size for your lace pattern, because we start with the lace. And I will start by making a slip knot and putting it on my needle. And after that, bring the waste yarn behind your needle. Just put the other end here so it doesn't make a noise against the table when I'm working here. So you bring the waste yarn parallel to your working yarn, and then I will just bring the waste yarn behind and twist it around the main yarn and put the main yarn on my needle, and again bring it from the back to the front and pick up a stitch, and then again from back to front. I usually do this a couple of times like this, but you can see it starts to make a little bit of mess here on the other side, so every now and then just pull it through. So I twist the waste yarn around the working yarn and then put the working yarn on my needle. So again from back to front, from back to front, and let the twists go from the yarn ends. And do this as many times that you have your provisional cast on number of stitches on your needle, and end it with a wrap. And then I usually make a little knot at the ends of the waste yarn. You can leave the yarn end, main yarn end out, so a little snip knot here so everything stays in place. So I'll just do that for my size, cast on the rest of the stitches, and then I will show you how to continue. So here I have all my cast on stitches, and I made a little knot here. The reason why I like this cast on is because the provisional cast on is very easy to undo later on. So the stitches are kind of like on a piece of a string. So I will show that to you later on when we get to that point. But that's the reason why I like using it. Then I turn the work on the wrong side, and our setup row is just to purl everything. So purl all the stitches until the end of the row. Just purl everything. So on the following round we will start making our lace. So start by knitting 3 stitches. So this is our I-cord edge, and then purl 1. And then we will start making our lace. If you want, you can add a little stitch marker here, if that helps you to keep in track in the pattern. So our first row is to knit 3 stitches and then make a yarn over. So go behind the yarn, put it on the needle and just leave it there. Then purl 1 and again a yarn over. Then knit 3 stitches and purl 1. So this is our first pattern repeat, and then keep repeating the first row of the chart until you reach the end of the row, so you have only 3 stitches left, and then we will knit those 3 stitches. So check the pattern, how many times you should repeat the pattern on each row. We'll start again. So knit 3, yarn over, purl 1, yarn over, and knit 3, purl 1. Again, knit 3, yarn over, purl 1, yarn over, knit 3, and purl 1. And then we have one more repeat left, so knit 3, yarn over, purl 1, yarn over, knit 3, purl 1, and knit the last 3 stitches. So these were again our I-cord stitches. If you want, you can add a stitch marker here between them. You can also add a stitch marker between each pattern repeat if that helps you to keep in track with the pattern. Then we turn around and we'll start with a wrong side row. So slip the 3 I-cord edge stitches. So I go behind the yarn with yarn in front, just slip everything as if to purl, bring the yarn between the stitches. So the yarn goes in the front of three stitches. So this will make our I-cord. And now we are reading the chart from left to right. So this is a wrong side row. So everything is being read from left to right. And also remember to check the abbreviations for each stitch. So the first stitch on the on row 2, when you read it from left to right, it looks like a purl stitch, but since we are on the wrong side, it is a knit stitch. So knit it. Then the next stitch looks like a knit 2 together, but since we are on the purl side, we will purl the 2 stitches together and purl 1, make a yarn over, and then purl 1 and knit. Again, purl 1, make a yarn over, purl 1, and on this side we have a slip slip purl stitch. So we slip and slip, put the stitches back, and then purl them through the back loops. Let's do that again. So we're repeating the whole chart. So knit 1, purl 2 together, purl 1, yarn over, purl 1, knit, purl 1, yarn over, purl 1, and slip, slip, and purl them together through the back loops. Again, knit 1, purl 2 together, purl 1, yarn over. So this is the purl stitch, the yarn over stitch from the previous row. So we purl it, knit it, purl it, yarn over, purl 1, and slip. So continue like this until 4 stitches remain, and then we will work our edge stitches. And our last repeat, so purl 2 together, purl 1, yarn over, purl 1, knit, purl, yarn over, purl 1, slip, slip, purl through the back loops, and 4 stitches left. So now we knit 1 and again slip 3 stitches with yarn in front. So the yarn comes in front, and turn the work. Then on the right side we will again knit 3 side I-cord stitches, purl 1, and then we will work round 3 of the chart. So now it's a right side row, so we work from right to left. So first is a slip slip knit, then a yarn over, then we knit 2, purl 1, knit, and on this side we have knit 2 together. Second repeat, slip slip knit, knit the stitches through the back loops, yarn over, purl 1, knit 2, yarn over, knit 2 together, and continue like this until you have the last 3 stitches remaining, and then just knit them. And then it's time for a wrong side row. This one is easier, we don't have any decreases or yarn overs here, so slip the 3 edge stitches, then knit 1 and purl 4, knit 1, purl 4, and repeat this until 4 stitches remain, and then we have knit 1 and we'll slip the last 3 stitches with yarn in front. And then just keep continuing in this pattern. And I will next show you the round 12 that has the twisted stitch, so I will show you how to make that. I'm now ready to work the row 14, so not the row 12 like I said earlier, but row 14. So on row 14 we have a new stitch, which is the knit 1, or on, because this is the purl side, then it's purl 1 through the back loop. So again I will slip the first 3 stitches for our I-cord edge and then knit 1, and then we have purl 1, knit 1, and here this one we will purl it through the back loop. So pick the back loop and then just purl it. And after that, purl 2, knit 1, purl 2, and then again purl through the back loop, knit 1, purl 1. So let's do that again. So we have knit 1, purl 1, knit 1, and then purl to the back loop, purl 2, and knit 1, and then the second side of the repeat. So purl 2, purl through the back loop, knit 1, purl 1, and just keep repeating this until the end of the row. So at the end of the row we had the 3 slipped edge stitches and 1 knit stitch. So work as established until the end of the row, and on the next row I will show you how to make the wrap stitch. So the last repeat over here, knit 1, purl through the back loop, purl 2, knit 1, that's the middle stitch, purl 2, purl through the back loop, knit 1, purl 1, and then we have our edge, so 1 knit stitch and slip 3. On this row we have our wrap stitch, so I will show that to you, and this is starting to look like this, so we can see the pattern starting to form. So here we go, knit the 3 I-cord edge stitches and purl 1, and we have knit 1, purl 2, and then we have our wrap stitch. So what I do, I take the next 5 stitches on my right needle, then I bring the yarn to front, slip the 5 stitches to back, bring the yarn back to the back, do the same thing again. So bring the yarn to front, slip the stitches to back, bring the yarn back, and one more time slip everything on the right needle. So on this row we only slip and wrap the stitches, we don't knit them, and then continue forward. So purl 2, knit 1. Let's do that again. So we start our row by knitting 1, purling 2, and then it's again time for the wrap stitch. So slip 5, bring yarn to front, slip everything back, bring yarn to back. Again, stitches to front, bottom stitches to right needle, yarn to front, yarn back to back, and stitches to right needle. So that's our wrap stitch. And just continue working like this until the end of the row. And we have one more stitch to go through later on. So that will be on row 18. We have our knit through the back loop. So that's the last stitch from the chart that I will show to you. Then you know all your stitches. And just keep working like this. So now I'm ready to work to row 19, and it has the last stitch that we need for the lace pattern, to knit 1 through the back loop. So I will start by knitting these 3 first I-cord edge stitches, then purl 1, and then we have the knit through back loop stitch. So instead of knitting through the front loop like we usually do, I knit it through the back loop. And then we have a yarn over, slip, slip, knit, decrease, knit 1, and purl 3, knit 1 and knit 2 together, yarn over, and again knit through the back loop. We already did the purling through back loop a few times on earlier rows. So knit through the back loop, yarn over, slip, slip, knit, knit 1, then purl 3, knit 1, knit 2 together, and yarn over. And we'll continue in the pattern like this. So now you know all the stitches that you need for completing the lace. And remember that on row 52, or after row 52, you will change from working with the edge stitch, so from row 53 onwards. So this edge stitch that we have purled here between the lace and the I-cord, you will start knitting it instead. But that only happens after completing row 52 of the charts. So keep working in the charted pattern, and like I said, you already know all the stitches, and I will finish the lace and then we can go forward. I have now finished knitting the lace, so the lace part is now done, and the next thing I will do is start from the wrong side, and we'll start just working in stockinette stitch, which means that again slip all edge stitches and then just pull everything on this side until we have 3 stitches left, and then slip those like we have done until now, and on the right side just knit everything and work in stockinette stitch until the piece measures the length that is indicated for your size in the pattern. So a couple of rows, and then we are ready to put the stitches on hold and work the back in the same way. So after finishing the stockinette stitch part, after the lace, I ended with a wrong side row, and then I will just cut the yarn and I will put all the stitches on stitch holder. So you can either use a piece of waste yarn, just put the yarn on your needle and then with the help of the needle thread it through all the stitches and put the stitches on hold on the waste yarn, or you can use the cable cords. So put the cable cord on the needle and then just slide all the stitches of the needles and onto the cord, just everything off. Like this. Take the needle off and then I usually put a little knot here so I don't drop any of the stitches. So this is my first piece, and then I will just make a second one exactly the same way as we did this one, but on the second one do not cut the yarn at the end and leave the stitches on your needles. So we will then join these two pieces together. I have here now my second lace part, and I made one extra row from the right side. So now I'm ready to start casting on for the underarm before joining the front and back together. So we're going to use the I-cord cast on method for casting on stitches for the underarm, so it looks like this I-cord edge continues all the way to the underarm. So what I'm going to do is I will slip the last 3 stitches that I just knitted back on the left needle, and the yarn is at the back, and for the first stitch I will first knit it through the front loop and then again through the back loop and knit these 2. So I have now casted on 1 extra stitch, then again slip the stitches back on my needle, so only 3. So this was from a previous row, so this is the extra stitch we casted on by knitting through the back loop. So all the time work with your 3 stitches for the I-cord edge and leave the increased stitches on your right needle, so we're not working on those anymore. Check your written pattern on how many stitches to cast on, because for example size 2 you only cast on 2 stitches for the underarm, so for that size you already place a marker to mark the side over here, but for my size I'm going to be casting on 7 stitches in total. So just knit those and then again slip 3 stitches back. and knit front and back, and knit 2 and slip them back. The stitches might look a bit loose at the moment, but they will relax when you block your work later on. So knit front and back, knit 2 and slip. So now I have 4 stitches. We'll make 3 more, then place the marker for underarm, so knit front and back, knit 2 and slip 3. And last one. So this is the first half of the underarm, and then we will place a marker here. This is going to be our side. So again, continue for the other side. So check your pattern, how many stitches to cast on total for your underarm. So just continue like this for the second side of the underarm. So here I have my stitches, and then I will put the first 3 stitches on hold. So I'll put them on this coilless safety pin. You can use waste yarn or a stitch marker also for this. So they are now on hold over here. And the next thing I will do, I will take the second side of the lace back on my needles. So just undo this. And putting the cord back on my needle, just slide everything of the cord back onto my needles. Just remove the stitch cord. And we are going to continue over the second part, and for this I will also take the first 3 stitches on hold. So these are the I-cord edge stitches, and we are going to use Kitchener stitch to join these 2 together at the end of the work. But now just bring the yarn behind the 3 stitches and just knit everything. So we have our 3 stitches on hold on both sides over here. And just knit everything until you reach the other end, and then cast on stitches for the second underarm in the same way. So you use the I-cord cast on method the same way I showed for this side. Add the side marker and take the last 3 stitches on each side on hold. And after that we are going to continue in the round. So here's my second underarm, and I have the 3 first stitches over here on hold. And before you join everything in the round, just double check that everything is lined up so the pieces haven't twisted, and then we can just start knitting in the round. So just work here, knit over all stitches. And we are going to continue knitting everything until the piece measures 5 centimeters or 2 inches from the underarm cast on, and then we are going to make the A-line increases on each side of the side markers. So I have now worked 5 centimeters after I joined the front and the back. So I'm ready to start making the waist increases. So these are done to create the A-line shape for the body, so that the body is slightly wider at the bottom compared to the top. And I will just knit the first stitch, and then I will make a left leaning increase on this side. So I will pick the yarn from the back, put it on the needle, and then knit it through the back loop. So this creates a new stitch, and it looks like it's leaning to the left. And then I will just work in stockinette stitch. I will knit everything until I reach the second marker, so that's on the second side. And then, or one stitch left before the second marker, and then I will just make a right leaning increase on that side and knit the last stitch. So if you don't want to have the A-line shaping for the body, it's totally okay to leave out these increases and work just straight in stockinette stitch until you have the desired length of the body. So if you don't want to have a wider hem than the bust, just continue without increases. Also, if you have a large bust and you don't want to make the A-line shaping but rather want the top to slightly decrease towards the hem, so kind of get the V shape instead of A-line shape, you can just leave out these increases and make a couple of decreases instead. So I would make a slip knit decrease before the marker and knit 2 together decrease after the marker, and just leave 1 stitch at each side of the marker unworked, like we do here, or worked as a knit like we do here, so they don't go back to back. So I'm just knitting until the next marker, and then we can do the second. So here's my second marker, just knit until there and we'll do our second increase. Okay, just knit until you have 1 stitch left, and then we will make a right leaning increase. So I will pick the yarn from the front, then twist it and put it on my left needle, and then just knit it through the front loop. So this is our right leaning increase. Knit the last stitch and then do the same on the other side. So knit 1, and here we had the left leaning increase, so from the back, and then knit through the back loop and knit until we have 1 more stitch remaining before the end of the round, and make another right leaning increase over there. And then we have our Luna here saying hi again. So just continue in stockinette stitch for another 5 centimeters, then make another set of increases and repeat that as many times as the pattern tells you to do. So my body is now finished. I have made all the increases at the sides and I have the perfect length for the body at the moment. I recommend that you try it on at this point. So just put the stitches on a piece of waste yarn or a cable cord, or put 2 long or put the second half of the stitches on another cable needle, so then you can try it on more easily and see if you like the length of the body. If you want to make it longer, you can add some more length at this point. And if you haven't already removed the second side marker, you can do it at this point. We don't need that anymore. So I'm just taking it out. And the next thing I'm going to do is the folding round. So this is going to be the round that helps the body to fold more easily. So you can see here, so this is the right side of the body and here's the purled row over here, so it makes the edge kind of like sharper and it helps this edge to fold. And after that we're going to do the fold part over here. So for the folding round I'm just going to purl everything. So just 1 round of purling. So just keep purling, purl all the stitches until the end of the round, and after that continue in stockinette stitch. So knit everything until you're pleased with your fold. So it's about 2.5 or 3 centimeters wide, and after that we will bind off all the stitches. So just pull everything for the fold and then continue in knitting for a few rounds. After you have knitted the fold, you can remove the beginning of the round marker because you don't need that anymore. And this line is the folding line. So you can see how it already starts to fold and settle across this point. So now I will just bind off all the stitches, and you can do that knitwise. So just knit everything and always pull the stitch off the needle. So knit one and go into this stitch, pull it over the last stitch on your right needle, and try to do this quite loosely. And if you feel that it's becoming too tight, you can change a larger needle for your right hand, so that will make it easier to keep the bind off looser. So just do this until the end of the row, and when you have the last stitch left, then just cut the yarn and pull the last stitch of the pull the yarn through the last stitch. So just continue like this until the end. I have now bound off all the stitches, and here's my last stitch. So the next thing I will just do is just pull on the stitch, take out the needles, and then we're going to cut the yarn. And for sewing in the hem, I'm going to take slightly longer than the width of the piece that I'm going to be sewing. So this is the width of the hem, so I'm taking a bit more than that, and then just cut the yarn and pull it through the last stitch. So we have it here. And the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to put the yarn on my tapestry needle, and then we can sew the hem in place. So you can already see here's the purled line, so it starts to fold along the line, and just let it fold as it would naturally, so don't force it, and hold it gently in place. And then with our tapestry needle, pick a stitch from the body and pull the yarn through, and then start going along the hem. So just pick one stitch from the bind off edge and then a corresponding stitch from the body, and continue like this. I don't usually take every stitch, I take approximately every second, and make sure you follow the same line of the stitches from the body, so this goes straight and even. So pick up the next stitch and one from the body and pull the yarn through, and just continue like this until you have sewn the whole hem in place. The hem is now finished. As you can see, everything is bound off and sewn into place. And the next thing I'm going to do is I will start working with the top of the front. So we'll undo this provisional cast on that we did in the very beginning. And I'm taking the stitches from the provisional cast on back on my needles. So we'll work with the front first, and since these pieces are identical, so it doesn't really matter which side you pick for the front, so just pick either side and undo the provisional cast on. Make sure you get all your stitches back on your needles. So I'm using my smaller needles here. So now I have all my stitches back on my needles, and I will be using two little coilless stitch markers or safety pins, and I will take the first 3 stitches of the row on the safety pin, so that I can just drop the 3 stitches of the needles and they are safe here on this stitch marker, and let's do the same for the other side. So also take the last 3 stitches on another safety pin or stitch marker and just drop them off the needles. So these are going to be part of the strap, and then we will first start by binding off these stitches. So the next thing I'm going to do is to cast on 3 new stitches with a provisional cast on. So let's make a knot here on my needle, and then I have a very little piece of yarn. I don't need a long one for this one, and just cast on another 2 stitches on your needles, and let's make a little knot here at the end of the yarn, waste yarn. So I used the same Knitty provisional cast on method as I did for the beginning, and then I will just put these stitches over here on my left needle in front of the front stitches, and bringing the yarn to the back, we'll start by knitting the first 2 stitches, so the stitches I just cast it on, and then for the next one I will do a slip slip knit decrease. So slip the last stitch of the needle or on the right needle, also the next one, and then I will knit them together through the back loop, and then just slip all these 3 stitches back on your left needle and do it again. So the yarn comes from the back. I will knit the first 2 stitches, then a slip slip knit. So slip as if to knit, slip as if to knit, and knit them together through the back loop. And again knit 2 and slip slip knit decrease, and keep doing this until you have worked all the stitches that you have on your needles and you have 3 stitches remaining, and then I will show you what to do next. I have now bound off all the front stitches, and I have 3 stitches remaining, and then I will take these 3 stitches that I put on hold back on my needles. So just undo, so put them back on your needles from. So here I have them now on my needles, and I will just knit them, and there are now 6 stitches on my needles, and just slip everything back on the left needle, and we'll continue with these 6 stitches as an I-cord. So this is going to be the first half of the strap. So just knit all 6 stitches and then slip everything back on the left needle. So if you're working on a double pointed needle, you can just slide the stitches to the other side of the needle and continue again. So everything is worked from the right side. You always bring the yarn in the back of the work and knit everything. So don't turn the work, just slip everything back and continue like this. And work like this until your strap is 5 to 7.5 centimeters or 2 or 3 inches long, and then put the stitches, for example, on the safety pin, coilless safety pin or stitch marker, break the yarn, and then we will work the other side. Remember to stretch the strap when you're taking measurements of it, because it will stretch when you're using it. So take the measurements from a stretched strap and not like a relaxed one, but stretched. And when you are pleased with the length, so this is going to be the length from to the top point of your shoulder, so the highest point, then cut the yarn and leave some yarn end, and then I will put the stitches on hold. You can use waste yarn or stitch marker or a safety pin. Just put them on hold. And then we will do the second side. So this one, so these were the first 3 stitches that we put on hold from the beginning of the row. So I'm taking them now back on my needles. Just make sure you catch everything and then remove the marker. And then I will also undo the waste yarn from the 3 stitches that I casted on for the I-cord strap. So make sure you catch everything, they might be hiding a bit. And just remove the yarn and place everything on the left needle so you're ready to start working a right side row. And then just attach your yarn at the beginning of the row and work the second strap as you did the first one. So just knit everything. And here we have our 6 stitches. So you can either slide them to the other side of the needle and continue again, or slip them as I showed earlier. And work this second strap in the same way as we did for the first one. And after you're done with this one, when it's the same length as the first one, just put the stitches on hold as you did for the first strap. And then do the second side in the same way. So put the first and last 3 stitches on hold. Use the I-cord to bind off the back stitches and make the straps in the same way. And then I will show you how to use Kitchener stitch to join the straps together. And the last thing, we still have to work these stitches from the armholes. But finish the second strap and do the same for the back, and then we'll continue. I have now made the same I-cord bind off for the back, and I made these straps for the back side as well, and I left these ones still on my needles. And now I can just cut the yarn. Remember to leave enough tail so you can do the Kitchener stitch, and 30 centimeters is enough for that. And then I'll just take the other side back on my needles, so just take these stitches from the front on your needles, and you can remove the stitch marker or waste yarn, and then we can use Kitchener stitch to join the two sides together. So here's my yarn end, and I will put it on a tapestry needle, and then bring the needles parallel to each other. Make sure the straps are straight and they haven't twisted. And I will go through the first stitch on the front needle, and I will go through it knitwise. So go into the stitch and pull the yarn through, and then the first stitch on the back needle and go into it as if to knit. So that was as if to purl, this is as if to knit, and then we'll start the Kitchener stitch. So go into the first stitch as if to knit, and at the same time you can drop it off the needle. So now it's on my tapestry needle, and go into this as if to purl and pull the yarn through, and into this as if to purl, drop the stitch of the needle onto the tapestry needle, and then into the next stitch as if to knit, and again as if to knit, drop the stitch as if to purl, and on the other side as if to purl, as if to knit. And I usually remember this so that the side that I have the knit stitch showing, it starts with as if to knit and then as if to purl, and the other side that I have the purl side showing, so that's as if to purl, then as if to knit. And we'll work like this until we have the last stitches remaining on both sides. So let's do the last one. And for the last two stitches, I'll just go into this as if to knit, and then into this as if to purl. And that's it. And then I can weave in the yarn ends on the inside. Just go into the I-cord you created. It's kind of like a tube, so it's quite easy to weave in the ends. Just go into the tube and cut the yarn. And let's do the same for the second side. So take these two straps back on your needles and join them together the same way as we did for the first strap, and then lastly I will show you what to do with these stitches over here. So the last thing to do is to join these stitches together, and just take them back on my needles. So just undo either the waste yarn or take the stitches on your needles from your stitch markers. And then the second side. So now I have one side on one needle and the second side on the second needle, and I'm going to join them together like this. So take a little bit of yarn. It doesn't have to be a long piece. And let's take our tapestry needle. And then just join these together like we did for the straps. So go into the first stitch on the front needle as if to purl. And then on this side as if to knit. And then just join them together with the Kitchener stitch, just the way I showed with the straps. So first as if to knit, then as if to purl. And this one as if to purl, and then as if to knit. And for the last 2 stitches as if to knit and as if to purl. And then just weave in the yarn ends. And if you have a little hole here, you can stitch it together with a couple of stitches so there's no hole. And then just weave in the yarn end on the wrong side of the work. Let's just go into a couple of stitches on the back of the work. And weave it in. Cut the yarn. And then do the same thing for the second side. On this side you can, for example, use the yarn end that you have from joining the pieces together. And after that you can just weave in all the rest of the yarn ends and then block the piece. So put it under water, let it soak there for 15 to 30 minutes so that it's thoroughly wet. And then I usually put it between a towel, then I kind of like roll it inside the towel like a burrito, then I step on it to press out all the excess water and then put it somewhere flat to dry, and then it's ready for use. So this is my finished second Kuutar top, and I'm super happy I went for this bright colorway. So I really like how it looks like. So it's totally different than the one that I made last year. I always get so surprised when you knit the same pattern in a different color and the whole feel of it becomes totally different. So this is the second version that I made and looks like this. Sure, I'm going to be wearing this a lot this summer. If you have been enjoying this tutorial, if you like my videos, remember to subscribe to my channel, and you will find all the links to my Ravelry group, my Ravelry store, and everything else that you need in the description section below this video, so check that out as well, and see you! Bye!